I'm Chris Ostrowski. I served in the Army from 1988 to 1989. What I remember most about Memorial Day is when I was active duty, we would do funeral details for veterans. And we'd casket detail and remembering the sacrifice they made for our country and holding that flag tight over the casket as they do the 21-gun salute, and the presentation of the flag to the widow was always just a very heartfelt moment to show our appreciation from our country to these veterans that gave their life.
I'm David Reidenauer. I served in the U.S. Army in Vietnam in 1971 and 72. The thing I remember most about Memorial Day, I don't remember too much. It's growing up as a kid, maybe a few parades, but it's since 1982, after the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Memorial Day has been the parades and remembering those who made the supreme sacrifice for our country.
I'm Marion Newman. I live in Bowling Green, Ohio. I came here to go to school in the GI Bill. I served in the United States Army 3 years in Army Aviation. I was stationed in Fort Rucker, Alabama, where all the aviation training takes place. And then I was in Germany for a year and a half, further training for aviators going to Vietnam. The Memorial Day when I was young was Decoration Day, and we used to decorate our bicycles and ride through the small town that I grew up in.
My name is Greg Robinette. I served in the United States Army from 1982 until 2014. And what I most remember about Memorial Day are really the local ones. I've been in Bowling Green since 1995, and I've always been impressed by the support of the community on Memorial Day, the number of people who come out and pay their respects to those who've given the ultimate sacrifice. So I really appreciate living in a community that respects and honors their veterans, especially on Memorial Day.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Steve Hoppengardner. I am currently stationed at Bowling Green State University as a professor of military science. I think what Memorial Day means the most to me is just honoring those that have fallen. It's not mourning the people that have fallen, but honoring their service, their sacrifice, because they're truly heroes. So we just got to embody that as Americans and take hold of that sacrifice and continue serving our country to the best we can and never give up.
George Petkwitz, United States Navy, 1964 to 1968. The parades and everybody saying thanks for your service, especially nowadays. Not so much when I got out, because of the Vietnam War, you didn't get a lot of that. But now it's like everybody says thanks for your service. And one time when I was gassing up, somebody paid for my fuel. It was like, thank you.
Richard Zalch. I served in the United States Army, 101st Airborne Division in Vietnam, 1968 through 1970. Was a combat engineer. As far as Memorial Day, I remember Memorial Day from when I was a kid. In Tontogany, Ohio, we'd go up with my aunt and uncle. That was always something you just did at Memorial Day. It was also the end of the school year, which I was always very pleased with. And then there was always the picnic at the Legion Hall. Always the picnic at the American Legion Hall. Tontogany had a wonderful, that's what I learned about Memorial Day.
My name's Tom Price. I live here in Bowling Green. I was in the Marine Corps from 1961 to 1966. I remember the Memorial Days as a youngster, and I lived in Norwalk, Ohio, and going down and watching the parades, and especially all the kids decorated their bicycles, red, white, and blue, and I'd like to see that again.
I'm Jane Reidenauer, and I am president of the Bowling Green American Legion Auxiliary, Unit 45. Memorial Day for our family used to be, it's the beginning of the summer, barbecues, things like that. But after I met and married my husband, it took on a whole new meaning, honoring and remembering those who gave their all, literally, for our country and our freedom. So we make sure it's a special weekend for us to honor those and remember them and carry it forward so that people don't forget it, especially the youth of this country.
Bruce Wilson. I served from 66 to 68. Vietnam in 67. What I remember most about Memorial Day is just it's nice that people are remembered, especially ones that are gone. But the other ones that have been forgotten are the ones that are disabled and still here, and they need to be remembered also.
Well, my name is Mary Dubs, and I was in the Korean War from January of '53 until August of '54 when I got married. And I particularly remember Memorial Day when my kid's dad that I met in the service, he had a beautiful voice and he spoke at a memorial service in Clyde, Ohio. And it was beautiful. And that's my best memory of Memorial Day, I think.
Emmy Han, and I entered the service on 5 September 1952, and I left on 5 January 1956 when our oldest son was on his way. What I most remember about Memorial Day goes back to childhood. The father of the woman I was named for was a Civil War veteran, and he had been a drummer boy in the Civil War, and tall and elegant, and he always marched in the parades, and that's one of my fond memories of Memorial Day.
Yeah, this is Eldon Martin. I was in the service from 1954 to 56. I served down in Georgia most of the time. So basically, the Memorial Days that I remember are associated with later life when I was going to school and what have you. But they were good memories, and we always had family together to help celebrate.
I'm Vern Hansen, and what I remember most about Memorial Day are the parades when I was a kid, and the total devotion of the members of the country at the time.
Herb Detmer, U.S. Army, 1967, 1970. I remember most being in the Boy Scouts and Memorial Day parades in my hometown. It was a long time ago, but it was a very enlightening experience, a very emotional experience for some people.
My name is Joe Fawcett. I served from 1997 to 2012, and I think what I remember the most about Memorial Day is actually events like this. It's a good American tradition of remembering those who have sacrificed all for us and celebrating those around us.
I'm Jason Brocious. I served in the Air Force from 1994 to 1998. Most memorable thing about Memorial Day for me is the parades in downtown Toledo when I was a kid. It encouraged me to join the military and further my career to be a police officer.
My name is John Fawcett. I served from 1971 until 1995 in the U.S. Army, serving as a lieutenant colonel as the time that I retired. Probably my most vivid memory of Memorial Day are events just what we have today. Watching some of the veterans back in the day, more and more World War II veterans marching, as I watched on the sidelines of the curve before I served in the military myself.